Family Child Care Orientation. Module 9, Requirements for Substitutes and Other Caregivers. Requirements for Substitutes and Other Caregivers. In this section, we will review the requirements for substitutes and other caregivers, should you choose to use them in your program. Definition of substitute. Minnesota Rules, Part 9502.0315, Subpart 29. Substitute means an adult at least 18 years of age who assumes the responsibility of the provider as specified in Part 9502.0365, Subpart 5. Using a substitute. Minnesota Statutes, Section 245A.53, Subdivision 1. Notwithstanding Minnesota Rules, Part 9502.0365, Subpart 5, the use of a substitute caregiver in a licensed family child care program must be limited to a cumulative total of not more than 500 hours annually. The license holder must document the name, dates, and number of hours of the substitute who provided care. Overview of substitutes. You may choose to use a substitute in your program. Substitutes may temporarily take your place. Having a substitute is not a requirement, but you may find it useful to have someone who can cover your program in case you have an appointment or wish to attend a child's school event, etc., and do not want to close. Some providers may also appreciate having a substitute for a longer period of time, such as for a vacation or to cover a medical leave. You may not use a substitute for more than 500 hours per year. Substitutes must be at least 18 years old. Requirements for substitutes. A substitute temporarily fills in for you and works under your license. It is important to select a substitute you trust to run your program in your place. There are requirements that a substitute must meet before working in your program. Before providing care, all substitutes are required to review program policies and procedures, complete a background study, submit a physician's statement of ability to provide care, if applicable, take the following training. Abusive head trauma, AHT. Sudden unexpected infant death, SUID, if you care for infants in your program. Child passenger restraint systems, CARS, if your substitute will be driving children from your program. Pediatric first aid, pediatric CPR, and basics of licensed family child care for substitute. Definitions of caregiver and provider. Minnesota Rules, Part 9502.0315, Subparts 6 and 24. Subpart 6. Caregiver. Caregiver means the provider, substitute, helper, or another adult giving care in the residence. Subpart 24. Provider. Provider means the license holder and primary caregiver. Definition of second adult caregiver. Minnesota Statutes, Section 245A.50, Subdivision 1A. Second adult caregiver means an adult who cares for children in the licensed program along with the license holder for a cumulative total of more than 500 hours annually. Requirements for second adult caregivers. Due to the level of responsibility a second adult caregiver would have in your program, they must meet similar requirements to you as the provider. Before providing care, all second adult caregivers are required to review program policies and procedures, complete a background study, submit a physician's statement of ability to provide care, take the following training. Abusive head trauma, AHT. Sudden unexpected infant death, SUID, if you care for infants in your program. Child passenger restraint systems, CARS, if your second adult caregiver will be driving children from your program. Pediatric first aid, pediatric CPR, child development and learning or behavior guidance, and supervising for safety. Adult caregivers. Minnesota Statutes, Section 245A.50, Subdivision 1A. An adult who cares for children in the licensed program along with the license holder for a cumulative total of not more than 500 hours annually has the same training requirements as a substitute. Requirements for adult caregivers. Adult caregivers have a more limited role in your program and do not need to meet the same requirements as you do. Before providing care in your program, an adult caregiver must review program policies and procedures, complete a background study, submit a physician's statement of ability to provide care, if applicable, take the following training. Abusive head trauma, AHT. Sudden unexpected infant death, SUID, if you care for infants in your program. Child Passenger Restraint Systems, CARS, if your adult caregiver will be driving children from your program. Pediatric First Aid, Pediatric CPR, and Basics of Licensed Family Child Care for Substitute Helpers. Minnesota Rules, Part 9502.0315, Subpart 14. Helper means a person at least 13 years of age and less than 18 years of age who assists the provider with the care of children. Minnesota Statutes, Section 245A.50, Subdivision 1, Paragraph B. Paragraph B. Helpers who assist with care on a regular basis must complete 6 hours of training within 1 year after the date of initial employment. Requirements for helpers. Helpers are ages 13 through 17. Children younger than age 13 may not be helpers in your program. Helpers assist providers with things like reading to children, playing with children while they are outside, or helping with crafts. Helpers cannot supervise children nor do your work, such as feeding infants or changing diapers. They cannot be left alone to supervise children. A helper is required to complete a background study, understand policies and procedures, take abusive head trauma, AHT, training, take sudden unexpected infant death, SUID, training, if you care for infants in your program, and take Child Passenger Restraint Systems, CARS, if placing a child in a car seat. Helpers who assist with care on a regular basis must complete 6 hours of training within their first year. They can take training with you or they can take classes at school, such as music, art, physical education, or sign language classes. As long as the training that a helper takes relates to the things they help you with, the hours will apply. Overview of other caregivers. You, as the provider, need to be the primary caregiver for your program. If another person will be helping you in caring for the children, then there are several requirements that you will need to follow. Other caregivers can be a second adult caregiver, an adult caregiver, or a helper, who is a teenager, aged 13 through 17. The training caregivers need to take is based on the number of hours worked, their role in the program, and the ages of the children in care.